finally, a source of raw, real, and honest information on healthcare issues that matter most. Welcome to BS Free MD. From the latest medical information to how to stay sane as a doctor or a patient, no subject is taboo, no BS is allowed. Now, let's welcome your hosts, Doctors May and Tim Hindmarsh.
All right, welcome back. Yes, we are into November, and no, there'll be no, not November in our house. That is completely ridiculous. Cold, cruel, and unusual punishment. I just finished 31 days without any alcohol, nothing, zero, not even a tiny wafer thin mint of alcohol. So
that was enough of a test of your wills.
Yes,
shall we say?
Yes.
And if you're watching the video, if you're listening, you can't see this, but or you're listening to the audio, you can't see this, but we have a nice little new studio going on here. We are in the process of moving and trying to find some good Wi-Fi connections. So bear with us on the visuals here.
This is next level. This isn't even Wi-Fi. This is directly Ethernet plugged right in.
There you go. We're going back.
Sucking the interwebs
Soon
right
you will
from
hear
the web.
The dial-up. Soon you will hear the dial-up.
Sucking the interwebs. Yes, it's awesome.
And I'm cheering for Team Oregon here with my Oregon Ducks hat on. So go Oregon.
Yeah. All right. So we are very excited to have as one of our sponsors, Oregon Valley Farms. Their meat is exceptionally great. We featured their website last episode, and we've done some Instagram stuff and whatnot for them. It's amazing when you actually eat real food, and when you eat real. We've been eating a lot of protein. We've been eating a lot of meat, and their stuff is just spectacularly awesome. If you're in the Willamette Valley, they're out of Albany. They source all of this meat from smaller farms that, grass-fed, grass-finished beef, if that's how you want it, free-range chicken. Like it's the real deal.
As well as pork. And it's hormone-free, no antibiotics, and yes, pasture-raised, grass-fed, and you can get green-finished as well. So check out their website, OregonValleyFarm.com, and you can order subscription boxes delivered right to your door. You can pick up if local, and you can select various items to try instead of boxes. So again, we'll link them in the show notes, OregonValleyFarm.com.
Okay, and now on with the show with Dr. Mark Sherwood. It is amazing. All right, welcome back to BS Free MD. We are super psyched today. We are very honored to have Dr. Mark Sherwood. He was born in Tulsa and raised in nearby Berry Hill. His time was spent in law enforcement and at the Functional Medical Institute, helping thousands of patients. He and his wife, Michelle Neal Sherwood, together form a partnership of principled leadership. Together, they have successfully treated 10,000 COVID patients. Wow, 10,000, resulting in 0 deaths. He is a former Oklahoma State and regional bodybuilding champion, ex-professional baseball player, and a 24-year retired veteran of the Tulsa Police Department, where he logged a decade of courageous service on the department's SWAT team. After researching the healthiest ingredients, Doctors Mark and Michelle Sherwood launched their response to the food shortage crisis, the performance product called Kingdom Fuel. Wow. So what we would call him in standard BS Free MD parlance is obviously an underachiever. So welcome, Dr. Mark Sherwood. We are so psyched to have you here. Tell us a little bit more about yourself and what you're doing right now.
Well, first, I'm honored to be here. You guys, I just appreciate what you all do, and thanks for standing up for the truth, and thanks for doing it together as husband and wife team. That is beautiful. I love that. Another dynamic duo in which my wife had the pleasure and honor of knowing. In a nutshell, I've had a colorful life, I guess. People always like these fun facts, did you know, right? I was a police officer for 24 years, as you noted, 10 years on the SWAT team. But during that time, for 12 years, I actually traveled around the world as part of the world famous power team, breaking bricks and all that kind of stuff. So been all over the place with that. And then we've written 3 best-selling books, Quest for Wellness, Fork Your Diet, and Surviving the Garden of Eden. You like that title, right? And then we in our spare time, facetiously noted, we decided to form a movie production company, and now we're on our fifth movie that we've done, and they're all based on that kind of faith-based family entertainment genre that has really won us some awards, and we've really enjoyed that because they're always going to be memorialized. But our whole passion is really serving people, protecting them from themselves most of all, and from misinformation. And so we're just honored, and the 10,000 plus people is a blessing. I'm going to give God the credit, all of the glory for that, because he deserves it all.
Outstanding. So I know that you had a little political run for in the Republican primary for governor of Oklahoma. Every time I say Oklahoma, I just want to start singing for some reason.
Like, Oklahoma, yeah.
That's right. You don't want to hear me singing. That's terrible for downloads.
Yeah, we ran for governor, and again, it was being obedient to the call. We always knew political campaigns and stuff are dirty. Politics are dirty. There's not really a Republican Democratic Party anymore. I call it the uniparty. They're all about money, control, dominance, love of money by all appearances, because they don't want to give up their power, and it's all driven by dollars. Look, we made a decision, though, you guys, to go into that and be obedient. It wasn't about winning and losing. It was about being obedient, and we wanted to communicate truth. So I all my 250 plus campaign addresses, and we got over 50,000 votes, which were good. We talked about the Constitution. Surprisingly enough, the majority of people in office and running for office have no idea what that says. Secondly, every speech I started off with, I honestly did. Jesus Christ is my personal Lord and Savior. I didn't really give a rip what anybody thought. And it was like, I'm all in here, man. And we talked about, how we're being lied to and manipulated by the government and entities such as, big medicine, big food, and big government.
Right. And, the thing that's actually, you mentioned that big food, big medicine, and big government, the proof is in the pudding. Right. I mean, it was, May and I just recently watched one of these little mini documentaries on Netflix about high fructose corn syrup, right? Yeah. And origins of that. And then how the simultaneously, the FDA comes out and the CDC and gives you the food pyramid, right? And then, which is literally upside down. Like, take the food pyramid, invert it, and you would be way closer to the actual healthy food pyramid. And then we look at it, and what's the result? Well, it's a 70% overweight population, almost 50% obese, et cetera, et cetera. We've done this I'm not supposed to say et cetera anymore. But apparently I say too much.
I'm your word police.
Yeah,
right?
Word police. So you look at the the result, and the result is horrible. But yet we keep doing the same thing over and over and over again. I mean, it's exactly the same thing with the masks and the vaccine. If it worked, we would be done. You wouldn't need a third shot or a fourth shot or anything, right? And you would have massively decreasing hospitalizations, which for the most part we do, but we still have these spikes that are way higher than other countries that didn't use the mRNA vaccine. So you sit there and you go, it's not working. And what is the problem with I see it in my own life at times, but this ability to go, it's not working.
Yeah.
But you just keep doing it.
Well, Einstein was right when he said the repeated attempts to have different results for the same thing we're doing is insanity. And it really is right. But I'll quote one from Mark Twain. He said, it's easier to fool people than to convince people they're fooled. And it's really true. We've been conned for a long, long time. People like me, I'm a naturopath by trade, and my wife, is a conventionally trained medical doctor. She's an osteopath with MD boards as well. But the bottom line is people like me and that like you guys that are looking at things holistically or naturally, whatever word we want to use, we were demonized back in the early 1900s by the Rockefellers of the world to go into this thing, and they begin to infiltrate the natural healing processes of the body by seeing people instead of as people, as seeing them as potential profits, along with sickness being profitable. And it hijacked the whole system. And this is where we are right now. And so, because of several angles that I think are important, and I'll hit a political one and I'll hit a reality one here. We in America allow pharma to advertise straight to the public. Who the heck, bright idea, dumb idea was that? Now we also allow big food to advertise to the public. And then you have this marriage made in hell, Food and Drug Administration, that actually is merged together. They have nothing in common at all. And yet now we're so inundated and bombarded with this manipulative narrative. It's an indoctrination. We use that word now in schools a lot, but look, this indoctrination has been around since, you noted correctly, the food pyramid days, when big government got involved with big food, and it kind of went like this. And then you take it one step further with the vaccines, and under the Reagan administration, we transferred the vaccine liabilities from the companies over to the government again. And when's the last time they pay out class action lawsuits? I mean, it's such a quagmire, and that's why I absolutely honor the BS-free MD shows and things like similar, because it gives people an opportunity to hear truth. And truth is the only thing I know that can get people free, but more importantly, free from those big prisons, big government, big food, and big medicine.
Well, coincidentally, last week's episode on BS Free MD, we have an episode that we try to do once a month, which is called Doc Tales with Cocktails, where we tell funny stories. And
I love that.
And last week's was big, funny. We called it Funny Farm, but basically picking fun at all the direct-to-consumer advertising and all the stupidness that's out there, and how they have to put all the liabilities, side effects, etc. And it's ridiculous. But we went through the whole history of it as well, and yeah, we're right there with you. It's just ridiculous.
Well, yeah, it's pretty sad to me. Very sad.
I'm the sick individual that actually pauses the ads and reads the small print.
Yeah.
And so, like, Januvia, which is a diabetic medication, and it says, may cause an infection in your perineum. Your perineum is the area between your genitals and your anus.
Yeah, it's like a really good place for an infection, right?
Right. Yeah. But it's not just an infection. It's necrotizing fasciitis of your taint. It is literally eating your nether region. and you sit there.
But that's direct to consumer marketing.
Holy,
go ask your doctor.
Moly. Right.
Okay.
But the one I had the most fun with was that Xiaflex, that Peyronie's disease injection. Because I went and I actually read the side effects. One of the side effects is a corporal rupture, essentially.
Oh, that's good news.
That's great news. So it says, it literally says, and this is to the consumer on the website. It says, if you hear or feel a popping sound in your penis, go directly to the hospital. No, I'm going directly to the gun store because I'm going to shoot whoever gave that to me.
You bet you are. Yes, indeed.
A popping sound? I mean, it's just like, it's a clown world. I mean, come on.
It is. It's some of the dumbest things. My wife and I had those conversations a lot. And it's funny how the inflection changes, and they do it so quick. It's like double speed, because they really don't want you to pay attention to that. And it's nothing more than just linguistic art of manipulation. That's what it is. And they don't want you to know. And the sad thing about it, I look at the medical doctors of the world as some of the most brilliant minds that are capable of really analyzing large amounts of data, facts, structures, functions, physiology, anatomy of the body, the systems biology, etc. And yet, to think that now they have been used as a tool in a game to do nothing more than prescribe drugs and be as my wife said, I'm not misquoting this, she was told to her face by a pharma rep that she was nothing more than a drug whore. And I think that there's accuracy to that. She got very offended. But when she came home, she said, you know what? I think that's right. And of course, that was the end of her medical-ish normal course career. Thank God you had to close that door, which is good.
But we could totally attest to that. I mean, we've had this similar experience in our career working for, as I call it, big corporate medicine. When, we were in there for years, should have gotten out sooner. And basically with all the, and I don't know if you have worked in big corporate or your wife has, but it became all about the metrics, the box ticking, the meeting the requirements so that they could get more reimbursements from Medicaid and Medicare and all the insurance companies, which followed suit. And long story short, we finally thought, what are we doing? We called ourselves the same thing. We said we were literally medical horse to the system because we're just selling out, doing what they say, even though it goes against everything we believed in, really taking care of the patient and nothing to do with real good healthcare. I mean, people come in because they're depressed or something horrible had happened at home, and then you're too busy ticking boxes about their diabetic foot check, which they don't really, that doesn't get to the point. Long story short, we felt the same way.
Well, just case in point, the diabetic foot exam is a real sore spot for me, and it was one of the things that got me into urgent care and then completely pulling the pin on corporate medicine. Is I got a letter from an insurance company that I hadn't done a diabetic foot exam on this patient of mine that I'd seen for probably, a decade and a half. And he needed a diabetic foot exam. Well, the problem was he had no legs. So ergo, he had no feet.
Yeah.
And so like you said, like it's just.
That was the linchpin. I mean, they have these, whoever sitting in offices, ticking boxes, checking everything that physicians are doing. And then they call you up to, berate you. And it's like, why didn't you do this? You're not doing your part. And then, to have to say, hello, this person doesn't even have feet. This is not taking care of the patient. And so, so frustrating as far as where we're going in medicine. And Tim and I've talked about this quite a bit, with a lot of other people. Now there seems to be, I don't know what your thoughts, but where do we go from here? Because it seems to be like two streams are happening. There are the people that are still fitting and plugging themselves into the big system. And for some people, that's, I don't know, I say sadly what they want to do. They just want to show up for work, be part of the cog in the wheel. But I think on the bright side, we're seeing a lot of people now going away and doing their own thing, opening up their own, say, direct patient care model, small business model. What do you think? Is that kind of what has to happen in the future for medicine to really make a change? I mean, that physicians at the grassroots have to just say, no more, we're not participating in this big system. What do you think?
I do think that is accurate. Even on the campaign, I observed that a lot of federal government money was going into these systems almost as a glorified bribery to control them, to control people, and that's, again, goes against everything that we know to be true. It was clouding and was actually castrating the physician's ability to think on their own and treat on their own and treat the way they thought was best. So I do think what's going to happen eventually, you're going to see, and you're seeing this right now, two alternative care systems. One is going to be a model that we know that's a conventional insurance, big money, people are profits, payer mixes the driver, right? We're going to see that. On the other side of the coin, I think you're going to see a brand new model creep up. I think that a lot of the opportunity out there is what we should focus on. Like there's so many opportunities for physicians out there right now to do what they love, heal people, help people, listen to them, but they've got to have the courage and the guts to do it. And my biggest concern for them is that they will wait until it's too late. And I'm encouraging them to act accordingly when they're supposed to go have the guts, the courage, and believe that if God guides them over here to do that, God will provide for them over here. And that where he guides, he will provide. He's provided for my wife and I. So I see many opportunities for healing centers to pop up. And I have observed over time that the simple principle is that people, consumers out there, are growing in exponentially in numbers that really want to be well, that really know they've been had and want to take charge of their health, because sickness costs more than health. And that's a big deal right there. And this whole idea of lifespan, we have got to get away from this idea of lifespan and start talking at well span. And instead of just lifespan, and start trying to decrease sick span. I don't believe life is meant to be like this inverted bell curve that comes up like this. You're born, and then all of a sudden you get your peak earning, then you have those last 10 years that really stink. Your last 10 years are multiple medications and nobody cares about you, just kind of waste away in a retirement home, right? I don't think it's like that at all. I think it should be like a rectangle. You're up, you live, and then you have a short transition to your next address, And I think that that's the focus that we're going to get. And we are seeing people, not just in Oklahoma, but around the country, because we're out there a lot, shifting, and they will pay for it, which is what you want. And I want people to understand this. Don't go into that cheap to try to be affordable to everybody. You want to force people to get this idea that skin in the game really is significant. If you don't have skin in the game, AKA insurance, if you think, then you don't value it, you drop it. And so we need to create a model, and I think we're getting there, where people are going to have skin in the game. And I see unique reimbursement programs developed by that. I see some entrepreneurs out there developing some sort of a model where there's a small monthly fee for potential reimbursements, much like the Medishare, the health share models. But I think it's even a little more tricked out than that, with actually clinicians and board members that are clinician oriented, that are going to teach the model from a top down approach, where people can learn how to take care of themselves. People are not stupid. They're smart people. Information's out there right now. You can actually get a medical school curriculum right now and listen to it yourself if you want to as a layperson. You can do that, which is pretty darn cool. So you can actually judge for yourself. So the information age that we have right now can be a big old blessing. So I see it as a massive opportunity. Long answer to a short question, but I do see that clear division between those two systems. And I see that one system, a freedom system, I call it, developing exponentially over the next couple decades.
So have you seen what I saw recently? I don't know where it was. It was on one of the, pop-up sort of throwaway journals or something about AI prescribing, where they literally are trying to get robot prescribing in Walmart now, which literally is the absolute ultimate like fever dream of the pharma industry, because then they can cut us out, and they can, if they thought direct consumer advertising was cool, wait to direct to consumer prescribing.
Wow.
And
this is going to happen. And I was talking to my wife about this. Again, people should know we hadn't had this conversation, but I did say this to my wife. One thing about, and I don't know, people maybe listening might not know what a Christian is. I believe I can talk to God and ask him questions, right? So call me crazy. Okay, cool. But nonetheless, I see this happening. I see people going into a kiosk, whether it be in Walmart or wherever, and I see them, going in there and having most likely chip mechanisms that are measuring biomarkers within them, that are fed into an algorithmic machine that they weigh them. They might be a way to even gather blood, perhaps, put your arm in here, put your finger in here, finger prick, et cetera, automatically, where it sort of self-sterilizes. I see that happening. And I see a quick analysis coming up, artificial intelligence spitting out medications like gumballs and taking your money from you through the same chip. I see that happening, and I see social economic scoring happening on that as well. I see that all going forward, and I see that happening within the next decade. I really, really do. And I think it's designed to ace out not just physicians, but the ability of people to think on their own. We don't have to think about it. We're going to go in here, and the artificial intelligence is going to get us well. Sadly, I see that. And I do think there will be some elitist minded people that take control and make a whole bunch of money. But I see the classic relational physician relationship within that model going completely away.
Well, I have seen Terminator, and in 2024, Skynet gets self-aware, and it ends quite poorly.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. People, look, this is going to backfire. We know that. We know that the free will we have, the ability to say yes, no, choose right and wrong, do dumb things, do good things, that's all the greatest gift of God we have. And we must never shirk the idea of that.
Yeah.
What you're saying about the I don't know, just kind of chilled me, because I was thinking you're totally right. The way medicine's set up now, at least in the system we worked before, a couple of different corporate systems, it's really algorithm based. And so
Yep.
I always hate to berate on mid levels, but we would have and we've worked with some excellent mid levels who, I'm like, you're worth your weight in gold, is just as equal to a physician. But
Well, better than some for
yeah,
sure.
but the point
Mm.
being, the push to higher mid levels because it's less expensive, their
Yes.
training's less. And then there's algorithms I don't think patients understand set up where, I mean, within the system, or that they're following. So someone comes in and here's your symptoms, and it's just algorithm based, spit you out a diagnosis or a test or a medication at the end. And since we're doing that with these mid-level in humans, I mean, it would be much cheaper and easier to do it just with a computer system can just do that just as well. So, right.
Well, actually, it doesn't do it just as well. It does
Well,
it
better,
orders of magnitude better.
There you go.
I mean, they've
Yep.
already looked at radiology, right? Using AI in
Yeah.
radiology. And this is like 5-year-old data. I mean, it can read an X-ray, 300,000 times faster. And with 10, something like, I don't know, I can't remember exactly, 5 or 10 times less errors. I mean, and that's just one specialty. And that's a no-brainer specialty for AI. So how long is it going to take before, the next step is going to be the AIs read the X-rays and the radiologist signs them off. And then you'll just get rid of the radiologist. That's going to be the next case.
Well, you're seeing that bleed now. More mid levels are being hired. You're seeing a shift from the idea of being a supervisor, a medical director. You're seeing more of that going on, and now you have medical directors for hire, and you could be a medical director for clinic. I mean, it's messed up, and more of the mid levels are acting on their own. But that's designed from the top down to cause the expenses to go down, and eventually it's going to go from physician to physician assistant, then to nurse practitioner, and eventually out. And it's interesting that in the training, right, and we've got 4 nurse practitioners that work with us, and they're great. And when they come in here and start getting some of the training, their eyes get big and they're like, oh my God, this is like completely foreign to everything I've been taught. But at the same time, I'm seeing in their training, they are almost put up here on a pedestal that you're just as good as the physician, right? So you can see that. So it's a manipulative thing that's happening with everyone. And it's very sad. And another thing to think about too is, here's a physician that goes in, works as hard, works their butt off, gets accepted in medical school, and then takes this massive loan out, which is a loan from the government, and then gets hooked into a system that says, oh yeah, you sign on with us, we'll pay some of this loan back. So you're stuck in there and you're completely owned by them, and then you can't get out. So, I defend physicians a lot, being where I'm at, and I'm like, man, don't bash them because they got trapped. They got sucked into that. So they're not all murderers, like people say. That kind of frankly pisses me off when people do that, because that's not the heart of people.
No.
To go in a hospital and just, we want to murder people. No, that's not it. But you get my point with that. That's the shift, that direction, and I find it very grievous.
Right. But it's interesting because, I've always, one of my big kind of mantras has been, Jesus was right, only the sick need a doctor. And so, but he wasn't talking about chronic illness. He was talking about the sick. So I think in the acute illness world, yes, you need, trauma surgeons, and you need oncologists, and you need all of these people. I want the highest end, best trained, best paid guys to do my hip replacement or take out a brain tumor or whatever the case may be. Okay. Right. Because that's a part of medicine that needs to be completely protected. Okay. That's like real allopathic medicine. Okay.
Yes.
But everything else, which has become the massive cash cow, where,
Yes.
you know, everyone needs Prozac, everyone needs insulin, everyone needs 3 blood pressure pills, all the chronic illness, that stuff can be treated so unbelievably inexpensively with activity and an appropriate diet. And, you know, and it's wild because like this last year we've tried to feature courage because we've seen so much like zero courage in our own profession. And so we've interviewed all sorts of different personal trainers, you know, people, you know, healthcare professionals that are doing, you know, optimal health, integrative medicine, et cetera, et cetera. And it is absolutely unbelievable because every single one of those people, whether it's a physician, whether it's a trainer, whether it's a dietitian, when you look at them, you go, my gosh, that person is actually living what they say. And what they say makes them look super amazing because, you know, and it's like the whole, like, why would you go to a fat doctor? I mean, that's like going to a poor financial advisor. Well, where are you? Who's your financial advisor? I don't know. It's some guy he's working out of the back of his van next to his mobile home. No, I want to go to the guy that's on like Beverly in like Rodeo Drive, you know? And it's just like, what? Like, hello, just common sense, man.
Yeah. And you know, a lot of times, you know, we hear that, you know, when people come and see us, they're like, oh, you guys are in shape. I'm like, what do you mean? Why wouldn't we be? That's kind of stupid. You know, why would I want to tell you to do something that I'm not doing every day? The interesting thing of what you said, and I think this is really key for people to know, is even with today's world, I mean, the majority of the things we deal with these disease pathological processes are driven by our own behaviors. And it's so sad. I mean, I look at the genes, you know, we do a ton of genetic work, and I realized over time that the genes have only changed about 2% in 10,000 years, you know, but the environment's changed multiple times over. And now we have this incongruency. And I kind of coined this term, diseases of the incongruent. You know, there's type 2 diabetes, all the autoimmune conditions, many cancers, heart disease, you know, type 2 diabetes, osteoporosis. I mean, my God, I mean, these things are not that challenging to avoid if we just do the right thing. And I look at like type 2 diabetes, I think that shouldn't exist in one single person in our entire world. What are we doing? And yet there it is. And it's the forefront, and it's a lead into this addiction to big food, big pharma again, leads to other things. And people just are now realizing that these disease processes that we have been convinced that are genetic, the whole thing, you know, it's just nonsense. There's a lot of people starting to realize that I don't have to do that anymore. And I'm hoping that people will rise up, not just clinicians, but people will rise up because they will create the demand. And then the people like you guys are stepping up will create the supply. And it'll be a great merger that's actually made in heaven, as opposed to one like the FDA made in hell.
Yeah, I think your point about, you know, physicians and people wanting to go into med school, the giant debt burden, which is huge and is becoming an increasing issue just because of the cost of universities and training. You know, that's a whole other topic probably for itself, and how do we, you know, get around that. Maybe the government should throw some more carrots to people that actually want to serve humanity than, you know, someone with an art history degree.
Yes.
But
Can I interrupt
anyway.
for 1 second though? I had a conversation.
Oh, go for it. You're good at it.
I'm good.
No, I'm kidding.
No, but
et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, et cetera. It has to be put in right here though. I had a conversation. I got to couch this carefully. I had a conversation with an executive in a place I used to work. And he said they had done this loose partnership with a private medical school. And, you know, he bumps up against me. He goes, that place is amazing. You should see the margins there. We should just forget doing healthcare and just do that.
Wow.
If you want to talk about medical debt.
Yeah. So then you get roped in, and we know physicians, man, some of, like, I'm just thinking of their faces in front of me right now with the biggest hearts wanting to serve, you know, in the community. But literally it was like, you know, I remember one guy said to me, I'm trapped. I got, $500,000 in debt. And the only way I can survive, like without being bankrupt, is to sign on for this, um, uh, the loan repayment, in the system, sign
Yeah.
your life away, just like being in the military. And then they get tied into a big system. And then you're in that for 10 years, 12 years, and you're established. It's hard to then break away and start all over. But also, I just remember going to med school, and I don't think it's the same now. Or I should say, I don't see physicians in training getting any education in business. I mean, there was none of that. I don't think that it's a part of it still in the curriculum. So how does one come out of there and go, yeah, I'm just going to be my own independent practitioner. I'm just going to go out without having a role model or a model to follow, or
No,
find
well,
someone else that's doing it.
yeah, and a good friend of mine, like he'd love to do that. And he's 20 years younger than me. He's at the perfect time to do it. Like absolutely perfect time to, go out on your own. And he's absolutely horrified because how would I ever start a business? And literally, and this is the thing. And, a lot of unsavory financial advisors, people that have run investment firms, understand that doctors are super intelligent at one thing and financially retarded mostly.
Yes.
And yes, I used the word, I don't care. So sorry, it's an apt word.
Well, I think what people don't understand is it's not like just setting up a coffee shop type business and, it's like, come through, I'll see you in charge. I mean, if you're trying to deal with insurance, that's a whole complex. I mean, you need specialists in there
the
just
key,
to deal with that.
The key is credit cards, not insurance.
So, I mean,
my wife, it's interesting, when she was, this is just shortly before we met, when she was terminated from the system, without a job. And we actually, this is a shameless, non-shameless plug towards a movie that's about her story. And I do encourage people to watch this, that are physicians out there, because it will give them some hope. It is called The Prayer List, and it's one of our movies. It's her story that's actually out there on Amazon Prime and PureFlix, the whole bit. But she was sitting around and like she'll tell you, I didn't know the first thing about hiring anybody. I didn't know about what I needed: equipment, computers, materials, supplies. Who do you call? Because that's all done for you. Who do you get from malpractice? What about your licensing? What? There was all of that. And working through that was like landmines. There's no book for that. There's no manual for that. And so we had to kind of like, oh my God, learn like this hard way when you had no help. And so, I'm thinking that, if physicians out there are scared, I get it, man, but it can be done. It absolutely can be. And I'm telling you to encourage you, if you're a healer, go heal.
Yeah, no, that's super encouraging. And you're right. People have done it there. I know that there's more models out there, but can you imagine coming out of any apprenticeship, like being an electrician, and then you're like, okay, well, you know how to wire a house, but we never taught you anything about actually how to build a customer or what to do. But yes, it's encouraging because there's a lot more physicians doing that than that have set up courses and things that you can mentor with.
Or when you're wiring the local Baptist church using the F word every third time is probably ill-advised for the revival of your business.
Man, no. That's funny.
So I want to kind of divert a little bit and talk about something I know that's on your heart and has been on ours because we've covered it in our podcast, but with your background in law enforcement and medicine, let's talk a little bit about the big F word that people are, I think a lot of people are avoiding and not addressing in the country, which is the fentanyl crisis that's going on, what's happening at the border, and what's happening with our youth, and it being now what the number one cause of death, isn't it, in the 18 to 25-year-olds is opioid overdose?
And I think actually if you're an under 40 male.
Yeah, it's sad. We live in Oklahoma. But whether you live in Oklahoma, Oregon, whatever, the borders are wide open to the south. And Mexico, China, and even somewhat in India are manufacturing this very cheap opioid analog fentanyl, the F word, as you said. And the big deal about it is we are being invaded right now by the Chinese Communist Party with the help of the Mexican cartel, and they're crushing us. There's 108,000, I believe, deaths in the last 12 months for that group, that 18 to 45 group male. And to put it in perspective, that's more than car wrecks, gun deaths, and COVID. And we are worried about it. I mean, come on, this is a big deal. And the administration that purports to have all this empathy and compassion is allowing them to come over. And this is what I observe. This is why I have observed from law enforcement, political, and clinical, as interesting three-hat perspective there that I've been involved in, is they are allowing the border to be just basically ran over because they're trying to get votes. They want to maintain their power structure. And the benefit to them is to get as many people over there. Than the idea of empathy. I'm going to let you in here to this country to get them. Poor people are being victimized. They're being played right now, and they're being utilized by that administration to gain votes. And then the opportunistic criminal element, which is really could be synonymous with our current administration, is also using the two-legged coyotes to pay people and gain money and make a good income by smuggling drugs over. And now you've got the rainbow fentanyl, which coincidentally is right before Halloween. You mark my words, this is coming right now. And when I was telling somebody, the amount of, you guys know this, the amount of fentanyl that is lethal to somebody, right? If you take a penny, and you can imagine that just sitting there on a white piece of paper, right? And then you look next to it, there's a little bit of powder there that's maybe covering maybe 1/20th of the spatial matter density of the penny. That's enough to kill you. And then these very poor construction methods of these drugs allow it to, they use the baking soda and the flour to cake it just to make it cheaper in manufacturing. And it's infiltrating our country. And it's a perfect storm, because when you have a country that is inundated with that narrative of hopelessness, I mean, think about this for a moment. People are hearing this every day. It's hopeless. It's hopeless. It's hopeless. And we got to be careful on both sides of the coin with that, right? And that creates a scenario in a person's life where they just want to check out, man. And, the opioid is a good way to check out. Keeping in mind that fentanyl is 100 times more powerful than morphine and 50 times more powerful than heroin. I mean, my God, it's inexplicable what we're allowing. And look, if I'm these governors, I really don't care what the federal government says. Secure your damn borders, like now.
Yep.
And you don't have to ask for permission. I get passionate about this, sorry. But the 10th Amendment, man, says that the states and the people retain the powers not specifically granted the federal government. Federal government is not securing our borders as one of their powers should be, so we have to. They have abdicated that responsibility. I consider it to be treasonous, in my professional opinion, from all counts, and call it for what it is. But this is an epidemic of massive proportions yet to be seen damage-wise.
I think you are 100% correct. And, to quote our favorite guy, Karl Marx, religion is actually not the opiate of the people. Opiates are the opiate of the people.
Totally.
And we interviewed Ben Westhoff, man, over a year ago. What an amazing guy. I mean, you interview him, and he's just kind of a soft-spoken, very humble, well-spoken writer. And you read his book, and the guy infiltrated Chinese drug labs in China. And he tells the entire story. That should be
mandatory reading.
That should be mandatory reading in like 10th grade. It's exactly what you say. They produce the fentanyl. These giant pharmaceutical labs. This is pharmaceutical quality stuff. Produce the fentanyl precursors in China. They come out of China. They go to Mexican super labs that reconstruct them into fentanyl, and then they go on the backs of literally hundreds of thousands of migrants that bring it in. And then, and the thing that's fascinating is how okay, now they have the fentanyl. How it goes back into these like small Chinese businesses, like literally like mom and pop restaurants and so forth that have connections to mainland China
That's right.
that are part of the distribution system. And you're like, it is truly a hydra, and like you can't just go, we're going to make it illegal and it'll be fine and cut the head off the hydra. You have to have such a multi-pronged approach to this to have any hope of getting this out of your society.
You do. And obviously, people have asked me before me, and we can all define a problem. And this is such a sophisticated enemy we're fighting. They're not stupid. They're very smart. They know, and we know that America will never be destroyed from the outside in. The only way to get America is destroyed from the inside out. And they're going to try to do that through these fentanyl distribution networks. And also that's going to promote, you're seeing the other end from violence being promoted and pushed by the narrative so that they can control guns and take guns away eventually. That's the two-prong approach. And then you throw a third one in there, that we now want to support abortion plus on demand. So you kill off the younger people, and then you also want to not support the older population by giving them untruths. And so now you can shrink the population, which is easier to control. So it's all a nefarious web of deceit. But I've looked at it, if you would secure the border, number one, put a moratorium on immigration, number two, determine who's here. And that may take you a few years to do that with increased funding to that particular branch of enforcement. Find out who's here, kick out who doesn't need to be here, stop being cute and busing people around the country. I get it. It's funny. It's awesome. But bus them back across the border, drop them off, bye. Your job is not to please the cartel. And then I think, too, you got to have some states, I hope, will have governors that have what's called a backbone and be able to stand up and actually secure their states right and understand that the people is the government. The government does not control the people. The people are the government. And so, and then, maybe opioid agonists like naloxone or something like that, you have those handy in schools with education so that people don't drop over dead, especially kids. I mean, these are some angles that people should take.
Yeah. And, it was interesting because I was quite libertarian on drug use. I mean, I hate the government trying to protect me from myself, but I also recognize that, having bath salts at truck stops was probably a really bad idea. And, and I live in Oregon and we essentially made meth and heroin a parking ticket. So you can have two 18-year-old kids sitting on your couch. One is drinking a beer. One has just shot up heroin.
Yep.
The kid drinking a beer will literally have a higher offense because he's a minor in possession of alcohol than the kid that just shot up heroin. Okay. That is an insane clown world. Okay. I understand that there's a place for law enforcement, but I also understand that, humans have been abusing opioids for 5,000-6,000 years, like since the Sumerians.
Yeah.
So to think that somehow you're going to enforce this away or legislate it away is crazy. So it needs to be safer. I love what Ben Westhoff talks about where, they would have these tents at raves in Europe and they would test people's drugs. So if people are going to use drugs, they know that they're actually not going to die.
Yeah.
I think that is something that's, but that's been blocked in the United States because it's been seen as promoting drug abuse. Well, abusers are going to abuse. Just like viruses are going to virus.
And I think a lot of kids, they're not looking for fentanyl or even they think they're just getting a Xanax or a Tylenol 3 off the street. And, it's crap laced with fentanyl. And that's what we're seeing happen is kids that are just trying to even just use something mild, I guess, that not to endorse it, or condone it. But it's just sad, senseless death because of this happening. And
right. Well, we had good friends of ours from church. Their kid thought he bought a Xanax and it was a fentanyl and he's dead. I mean, it's a horrible story.
Yeah.
And kids, guess what? 18-year-olds do dumb things. I don't even want to talk about half the dumb stuff I did when I was 18. But you know what? If you want to, buy or borrow a Xanax off somebody, a 0.5 milligram of alprazolam, it shouldn't kill you.
No, and the sad thing about that, it goes kind of back to the top of our conversation. People are going to abuse drugs, and they're going to take drugs. But even with what we have now with big pharma advertising to direct to public, we encourage the use of drugs. We really do. It's always a pill for an ill, whether it's legally obtained or not. I need something to help me get by. And so we've encouraged this. We're reaping the products of what we've sown. And that's a sad thing. And I do agree with that philosophy at present. At least make sure what we have is not going to kill you. And to me, I know it's radical. I get that. People would say that, the holier than thou is, well, you're going to encourage people. No, people are going to choose what they're going to choose, regardless of what you think. Yeah. You can't make people choose to do right. There's always people that are going to be criminals. There's always people that are going to disobey the law. And there's people going to do dumb things, including all of us in this conversation. But it's like, honestly, we've got to think of novel approaches like that and quit doing the same damn thing we've always done.
That gets me psyched, because I want to leave with some hope. And the big pharma, big medicine concept, which has always driven me crazy, and it took me a long time to define it, is you're not enough. You're not good enough. You can't fix yourself. You got yourself into this. You can't get yourself out of this. It is a total victim mentality. And it is time to say enough and stomp your foot and get upset and say, I am good enough, because you are. You are your best health advocate. You are, in most cases, your best doctor by choosing to figure out what needs to go in your body that's healthier, by doing more activity, by getting rid of the poisons in your life, like soda and alcohol and tobacco and what other things that we've known are poisons for a gazillion years. That is the key. But it's like, I'm not enough. I need Prozac. I'm not enough. I need, 1 million diabetic meds because I'm 75 pounds overweight. No, you're enough, and you're good enough. You just have to decide that you're going to be good enough, and you're going to make those decisions every single day. I mean, May and I have been on this journey off. I used to run marathons on and on. I started to get injuries. I gained some weight, and I just said enough. Amen. And we started weighing everything we ate, started doing different kinds of exercise because I couldn't run as much as I could before. And it's just like, holy mackerel. It's been what, like 8 months? I have a completely different body in 8 months. 8 months. Wasn't 20 years. And as a side effect, she lets me see her naked more often.
I love it. He had to go there on a live broadcast, right?
Yeah, of course. People are waiting for it. They're waiting the whole 50 minutes. He's like, come on, Tim, bring it.
When are you going to drop a truth bomb?
I think giving people hope is the right way to go, man. I mean, I've seen it. I've seen, for us, reversing type 2 diabetes is super normal. I've seen autoimmune disease reverses. I've seen people with all kinds of osteoporosis. I've seen that reversed. We've seen people that are told they have intense cardiovascular pathology. I've seen that improve immensely just with what you're talking about. My encouragement for people, look in the mirror and really ask the question, honestly, am I treating this temple the way I should? Am I treating this temple and honoring it the way I should? And man, you're your best advocate. Stand up for yourself. And the doctors, you don't work for them. They work for you. Question everything. Ask if they can't explain something to you and you ain't getting what you need, find a new doctor, please, for the sake of health.
I love it. Hey, where can tell everybody where they can find your movies that you have out, and if you also have a website or social media presence?
Yeah, we've got a ton of that. They can go to Sherwood.tv. Everything is there as far as connecting with the social media wise, and we'll definitely push you guys out there. I love what you do so much. It's wonderful. Movies. There's let me see what's out there right now. There's Fork Your Diet, the movie. It's kind of a healthy mystery. Then I mentioned our books. We've got the prayer list that's out there right now, and people need to watch that. That's especially if you're from the medical community. Please watch that one. Super important. We've got one coming out. It'll be next year called WWJR. When Will Jesus Return? Super funny comedy. We've got one that'll be coming out the following year. The movies run about a year behind, just so people know. Following year is called Heaven's Date. And so there's 2 out there, the 4 right now. And the 5th one we'll be filming next month, which is called Holy Flicks. So we're going to keep them going at 1 or 2 a year.
Hey, well, Tim needs a new job.
I was just wondering why I hadn't been called for a casting call.
You will get an audition. There you go.
Yeah, that would be great.
I love it. I got to think of the perfect role for you.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Court jester.
Yeah.
So
awesome. Send us all of the links and we'll get that in the show notes for everybody as well. That's super awesome. Actually, I'm super excited to watch some of those.
For sure. I'm a big documentary fan. It drives me completely crazy. She's like, you've just watched 3 hours of how they make ice cream. I'm like, yeah, but it's a fascinating
while you're
story.
Eating ice cream.
You know how many people have died in the construction?
No.
Well, she eats ice cream, not me. Mine would be the construction of vodka. That would be the
there
much
you go.
more. Half
now
Russian.
it's confession time, isn't it?
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely. It's biblical.
There you go.
So, awesome. Thank you, Dr. Mark Sherwood. This has been wonderful.
Oh, you're welcome. I honor you guys and reach out anytime. I just had a great time talking with you. Thank you.
It's no secret that medicine is a bit uptight. That's why Tim and I created BS Free MD, to mix things up a little and have fun in the process. Besides, we are having these exact same discussions all the time, so we thought we might as well invite everyone to the party. If you really like us, you can get plenty more and maybe see one of Tim's cool tattoos on our Instagram or Facebook pages at BS Free MD. See you next time.
But we try to keep BS Free MD as raw and real as possible. We can't be held responsible for any medical decisions or discussions had as a result of what you've heard on the show. We know, bummer. But the truth is, we really do care about your questions. So feel free to reach out to us by email at doc@bsfreemd.com.